Hello everyone, I apologize for my master's absence. He has been very busy, however he left this video for you all to watch while he is away. Please enjoy the show.
Good morning, maggots! Today I'm going to go over the Zombie Survival Guide, written by Max Brooks. Point by point, I'm going to go over the bad advice given by this book, and why it will get you killed. I will also go over some other falsehoods that are worth pointing out, whether or not that they'll end up being fatal. The first mistake in the book is rather minor, but I think it's worth pointing out. The idea that a zombie has no physical sensations would be false. Without a sense of touch, the zombie wouldn't have any coordination at all, not even the most basic of hand-eye coordination required to walk around, reach out, and grab people or bite them. It would be more accurate to say that the virus would make the zombie ignore all pain receptors. If their other senses, like eyesight, hearing, or smell, are still working, it's safe to assume that their sense of touch is also intact. The next myth, however, is just ridiculous. It first says that zombies do not have any special abilities beyond that of what they had when they were uninfected human beings, and then directly contradicts itself by bringing up a sixth sense to explain why zombies with damaged eyes or ears can still hunt uninfected humans. The author repeats the myth that we only use a small portion of our brains. The myth is that we only use 10% of our brains. The book mistakenly says 5%, so that's even more wrong. If a zombie has been deprived of all of their senses, you get a zombie that fumbles around aimlessly and pays no attention to the uninfected humans around them. So you need not worry about that. And if they do have extra abilities, beyond that of what they had when they were uninfected human beings, that means they're Lovecraftian monsters, which wouldn't be all that off the mark, saying that zombies already violate the laws of thermodynamics. But of course, you better pray as hard as you can that those are the only laws of nature that they violate, otherwise you're screwed. As for the part on decomposition, here's another myth. As the author talks about how the virus serves as both a repellent and a toxin to all living things, with the exception of a few microbes, he brings up the aging of steak, and mistakenly thinks that the aging process is where you allow a slab of meat to rot in order to tenderize it. That's like saying that cheese is made from allowing milk to decompose. When you age any sort of meat, you have to store it at just slightly above freezing in order to prevent certain microbes from spoiling it. In the case of venison at least, no microbes are involved, but the enzymes already found in the meat. When you dry age a steak, certain species of fungi are involved in the process, but the outside of the meat with the fungi growing on it is sliced off before you eat it. Not directly related to zombie survival, but trying to age any sort of meat without knowing what you are doing is probably going to get you killed, along with anyone else you are also cooking for. The reason he brings up the aging of steaks is partially to explain why zombies move so slow. Here's another bit of advice that will get you killed. Assuming that the zombies will always be slow, it's safe to assume that the freshly infected ones will move fast. Very fast. It may take a few days or weeks for them to slow down, but in the meantime, they will be running, or in the very least, moving much faster than you'd expect. The survival guide also discusses how cold can slow the decomposition of a zombie, including freezing temperatures or dryness. However, just because zombie tissue can be preserved in ice doesn't mean that being frozen does not damage it on a microscopic level, as millions of ice crystals puncture cell membranes and cause all sorts of damage. It probably wouldn't be as severe as in a living person, since there's no circulation of bodily fluids, but there would be damage nonetheless, which could either make the zombie move even slower, or best case scenario, cause severe enough damage to the brain to kill them permanently. Dryness is also mentioned as something that would slow down the decomposition of a zombie, which ignores the fact that even though it does, it would also make their flesh much more fragile and stiff, and thus make it easier to dispatch them. Since the book already establishes the fact that selenium acts as sort of a preservative in order to stop or slow the decomposition of zombie flesh, the presence of moisture wouldn't do a whole lot to speed up the process. As for vehicles, his advice on them should definitely be taken with a grain of salt. While he does bring up a very valid point about the fuel economies of each class of vehicle and the need to navigate tight spaces, he greatly underestimates the off-road capabilities of the average pickup truck and places far too much importance on miles per gallon. While it's true that ATVs and dirt bikes have a better fuel economy than pickup trucks or buses, he fails to mention that larger vehicles tend to have larger fuel tanks, which will, of course, mean you'll have to refuel less often. The goal isn't just to have a vehicle that is fuel efficient. The goal is to have a vehicle that can get you as far from the carnage as possible before the fuel runs out. While you can carry extra cans of gas, how much space will it take up? And how much will it weigh? You have to assume that you have no access to gas stations at all. The best thing to do is to fill the tank up and see how far you can go on a single tank of gas, regardless of fuel economy. He also overestimates the loudness of a properly muffled engine compared to the loudness of a suppressed firearm, but we'll get to that later. In the chapter about going on the offensive against the zombie horde, he contradicts himself. In the section about fighting zombies in fields, he says that it's worth burning down a field full of crops if it means getting rid of zombies, but when the subject of bombing a city comes up, he flatly rejects that tactic, asking disingenuously, where will people live if all the buildings are reduced to rubble? Look, if it's worth burning down a field of perfectly edible corn in order to prevent a couple of zombies from ambushing people, then razing an entire city makes even more sense. If a city is overrun with no survivors, then just blow it up! Blow it all up! Is there an entire building full of zombies? Unless there's something you absolutely need in there, don't try to sweep the building, just torch it! Why bother trying to save any of it? It's probably all crumbling due to lack of maintenance. You can always build another city, much easier than you can survive off of a limited harvest because you found some zombies in your cornfields and decided that burning them as a precautionary measure was a good idea. And of course, he messes up plenty when it comes to weapons. He brings up shuriken and how they're not effective against the living dead, and yet he still manages to overestimate their effectiveness in any sort of combat, at least by themselves. Throwing stars were used for misdirection, not for killing. Distracting a zombie serves very few purposes, and merely giving a zombie a few scratches isn't going to stop them. Trying to use shuriken as weapons will get you killed, not only if you try to use them against zombies, but also if you try to use them against uninfected humans. When he talks about bows and arrows, he brings up a really good point about how they're useless against zombies because it's extremely difficult to shoot a zombie in the head with one, and it's also safe to assume that an arrow anywhere else would not cause enough damage to incapacitate them. However, he brings up flaming arrows as an alternative. Overestimating the range of a flaming arrow will get you killed, because unless you do it right, a flaming arrow will go out before it hits its target. And one should also think about how to keep the arrow burning once it hits its target. Remember, a zombie is made out of rotting flesh, not out of straw. It's very unlikely that you will be able to use flaming arrows all that effectively in an outbreak, due to the limited range and the difficulty of keeping the arrows burning long enough to set the zombie on fire. But by far the worst mistakes the author makes are on firearms. This is to be expected, unfortunately. He He confuses the M249 for a heavy machine gun, even though heavy machine guns are chambered in .50 caliber, with medium machine guns chambered in full-powered .30 caliber rounds, and light machine guns, or squad automatic weapons, chambered in intermediate rifle rounds. While he does make a good point about ammo conservation, he places undue importance on it. Let me spell it out for you. You're dealing with a group of zombies that have no special abilities beyond the physical limitations imposed on them while they were still alive. They cannot heal, so any damage they take will accumulate over time. That is not a justification for spraying and praying, since suppressive fire will not keep them behind cover, but it does give you an excuse to not go for a headshot each time. A shot to the shoulder will disable an arm, a shot to the femur or to the pelvis will disable one or both legs, a shot to the spine will sever the brain from several body parts, and be almost as good, if not just as good, as a decapitation. The book asks why anyone would want to have to deal with a bunch of writhing body parts. An even better question is, why would anyone want to find themselves trying to get a good headshot in a life or death situation when they could buy themselves valuable time by crippling the zombie with a couple of bullets, and then casually strolling around as they execute said writhing pile of body parts, or if it's safe to do so, using a lighter and a can of WD-40 to dispose of them. He gives blatant misinformation about the differences between the M16 and the AK-47. He claims that the M16 is not heavy enough to be used as a melee weapon, and that you can't mount a bayonet on it, which is absolutely false. He also claims that the M16 was bad enough that the Viet Cong refused to pick them up and use them, even though it's well documented that both US soldiers and the Viet Cong liked the newer M16s enough, especially since the latter often used surplus weapons that were often lower quality than that. Hell, they even picked up its predecessor, the M14, despite all the problems that the Americans had with using the battle rifle during the war. The only real problem with the M16 was that soldiers were not issued proper cleaning kits, and that earlier models were prone to corrosion due to some idiotic decisions made by the US government. Stoner didn't say we needed chrome plating, so we're not gonna add it, even though it would make the gun more reliable! Those bugs have long since been ironed out, even before the Vietnam War ended, to the point where Armalite type rifles are among the most popular rifles in America. The AK-47 is also more prone to jamming than you think it is.
Not crap, just a well-used, functional, reliable AK-47.
A lot of people think this will work just fine.
Yeah, I think with the dust cover closed, we're going to be okay. I think when that's open, which is of course the condition you have it in when you're firing, I think we're going to see some with that, but let's find out.
All right, let's do it.
So we got this loaded up with a bunch of ammunition. We're going to fire 5 rounds. Clean. Tell me when you're ready.
Go ahead. Well, it works.
No problemo.
For now.
All right, so are we ready for this?
Yep, let me bring the camera in and get a nice close look at what you're doing to this poor thing.
We'll start on this side. You ready?
Yep, go ahead.
I don't think we need more than that.
Well, there's nothing important on that side anyway.
Oh, this side's clean. Ready? How's that look?
That's not bad.
That looks like a pretty muddy AK. You ready?
All right, go for it.
One shot. Failure to extract. Failure to feed second round.
Still a case in there, I see.
Yep, failure to extract. Double feed against a fired case.
Wow. All right.
And that was with the cover shut.
I don't know that there's any need to even try it with the dust cover open. We're in the US, we're not in Russia. We can't just go get a whatever kind of Russian AK variety of people think is going to somehow magically perform differently than every other AK ever built to the same specs. However, here in the US, we can do that with the AR-15. And back in Vietnam, we know there were it's easy to find about how the M15 failed and killed people.
M16, you said M15.
Sorry, the M16. Well, what we can get is this. This is a Colt SP1. This is the exact same gun, except in semi-auto, that the US military was using in Vietnam.
So what we do is we got two 20-round mags. By the way, these are Colt surplus USGI 20-round mags, just like they would have used during the war, with metal followers, not polymer followers. So got 20 rounds in each. We're gonna fire off 5 rounds to prove the gun works. Then we're gonna mud it up with the dust cover closed. We're gonna fire the rest of this magazine, which should be 15 rounds, and then we're gonna make it worse. All right, 5 rounds, no issues as we should expect. Dust cover is closed. Oh, soupy as always. I don't think I need to do more on that side already.
That's probably pretty good. Now, the urban legend is what? That you could find ARs buried in the mud in Vietnam, dig them out, kick the bolt handle open, and they'd run. Right?
That was the AK. You said AR.
I know. Are you sure it wasn't the AR?
No, it was the AK.
Oh, so you don't think this will actually work?
I think it's going to work just fine. Let me find the safety. Oh, by the way, guys, I'm not brushing the mud off the gun besides getting to the safety. All right, I'm going to disengage the safety.
Yep.
I'm going to fire the rest of this magazine. Ah! It locked open! Just like the other AR we tested multiple times. However, this is a Vietnam-era gun. Absolutely zero issues, zero malfunctions. So I'm going to dump that mag. Grab this other 20-round mag, insert it, close the bolt. I'm gonna leave the bolt, the dust cover open. I'm gonna put the safety on for safety reasons. We're gonna remud the gun. Please note, dust cover's open. I think I poured that straight in, didn't I?
Pretty much.
Other side again. All right, shaking it off just to be able to see the gun. Ooh, nasty.
That's not good looking.
All right, gotta get to the safety. Safety's off. Oh my God, it just worked. Just like I said it would, just like we knew it would, just like we said with the first mud test. It is the design of the gun that allows this to function. That said, one of the things that we're gonna hear about in this video is, well then why about the lore? What's the lore about Vietnam? If that Vietnam gun worked, why did this work?
This is a good point. The issue in Vietnam were completely different. So the primary issue in Vietnam was that the military changed the powder specifications between when the gun was tested and when it went into its first real issue. And this sounds like a minor thing, but by changing the powder specification, they substantially changed the gas pressure at the gas port, which changed the bolt velocity, caused the thing to no longer function reliably. This is a critical element in gun design.
It isn't, and in the AR, it's particularly relevant.
Right.
Dwell time in this chamber with that star bolt makes a huge difference on whether or not that round is going, that spent case is going to extract and eject out of this gun or not. If it's still under high pressure, that bolt will literally tear off of the bolt head, the case head, and just come back and just get a double feed. Won't extract or won't eject. So that pressure system and that timing, which is a derivative of the gas pressure here through the gas system, opening up, how much your spring pressure is, and the weight of your buffer, all determine your dwell time in an AR. And if you change that in your system with your ammunition, you've broken the gun.
Right, and that's what the military did at the very beginning when these guns were issued in Vietnam. That's compounding the fact that they didn't issue cleaning kits, because someone got the bright idea that you didn't have to clean it. I don't know where that came from, but it's stupid. So you had chambers that were now starting to get perhaps rusty, covered in gunk, which is going to make extraction even harder. You combine that with higher pressure cartridges, or not higher, chamber pressure isn't necessarily any different.
You've altered the dwell time.
Exactly. Gas port pressure is different. Now, the pressure in the cartridge when it's trying to extract is higher, plus the chamber is now sticky, makes the problem that much worse.
So in that video, the AK clogged up far easier than the AR did. So much for the legendary reliability that the AK-47 is supposedly known for. The AK also kicks like a mule, and it tends to overpenetrate, unless at keyholes. In fact, when my older brother took me to a machine gun range, we shot an AK. The guy supervising us literally called the thing a piece of shit. This becomes especially apparent when you realize that the Warsaw Pact developed the 5.45-39 rifle cartridge in order to compete with NATO's 5.56-45 cartridge. But the problem with the 5.45 round is that it's severely underpowered to the point where many other countries prefer to stick to 7.62-39, and even Russia is considering going back to 7.62-39. Needless to say, turning down an AR-15 in favor of an AK is going to get you killed, at least in North America, because you'll be far more likely to get your hands on an AR-15 than you are an AK, even if you disregard all of the advantages of the AR platform over the AK. One of the other things the author misses is that the Galil, one of the variants of the AK he cites, is chambered in the same exact round that the M16 is chambered in, 5.56 NATO. That's something the Israelis did, taking weapons from the Warsaw Pact and rechambering them in NATO standard rounds. While he does make an excellent point about how semi-automatic rifles are better for zombies, since there's no need for suppressive fire, he cites rifles from the World War II era, apparently unaware of the fact that not only do they manufacture semi-automatic variants of assault rifles, battle rifles chambered in full-powered rifle cartridges have also been designed and manufactured, like the AR-10, the FNFAL, the M14, the SCAR-H, or even the H-CAR, a 21st century variant of the Browning automatic rifle. Many of these battle rifles have been manufactured with only semi-automatic modes, even ones intended for military use, since full auto fire with most of these guns is impractical. Trying to look for World War II firearms during peacetime at the exclusion of modern firearms is both incredibly elitist and incredibly stupid, and foregoing modern weapons in order to look for World War II weapons during an outbreak will get you killed. What is especially amusing in his section about semi-automatic rifles is that the last three examples he lists are semi-automatic rifles that are chambered in, you guessed it, intermediate cartridges that are intended for assault rifles, or their semi-automatic civilian variants. Why would I need to waste my time looking for a Ruger 14 when I've got a perfectly good AR-15? If I were in a rush to grab a good firearm, why would I need to look for a Ruger 14 when civilian variants of the AR-15 or the AK are even more ubiquitous? Though, if there is any firearm that I would not want to get stuck with in the zombie apocalypse, it's the last one he recommends. Anything chambered in 22 rimfire. Seriously, what was he thinking? There's only one positive thing to say about 22 rimfire, and that it's better than absolutely nothing. Damned by faint praise much? You know that a gun is borderline worthless, when even a high point would make a better zombie killing weapon. That isn't to say that you can't use a high point quite effectively during a zombie outbreak, but 22 rimfire isn't much of a step up from using a BB gun. But perhaps the most embarrassing mistake he makes about firearms is exaggerating how much a suppressor quiets the weapon. Earlier, he exaggerates how much a car's engine would carry over and how much attention it would attract, despite being completely unaware of the fact that it's far safer than firing a suppressed weapon. He also makes the embarrassing mistake of advising people to be stingy with their bullets when they're in an area with lots of cars strewn around, apparently unaware that not only do cars not explode like Pintos, not even Pintos are that touchy and prone to exploding as that. So yeah, that's all I've got. Hope you maggots out there have had a happy Halloween this past week, right before I destroyed your faith in your ability to get good zombie survival information from Max Brooks.